I made the kind of mistake you can't take back. The kind that lingers in the corners of your mind, gnawing at you long after it's done. It was with my first serious boyfriend, someone who was more than just a fleeting love. He was someone I envisioned a future with. Our relationship had lasted 18 months, long enough for me to feel rooted in him, to feel like we were building something real. But things started to change last year. We began to face challenges, nothing out of the ordinary for a relationship, but instead of addressing our issues, I chose the most cowardly and destructive path imaginable. I cheated on him. I wasn't thinking about consequences when I made that choice. At the time, it seemed like a temporary escape from the difficulties we were having, a way to cope with my own frustrations and insecurities. I told myself it was harmless, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. And to make things worse, I confided in someone I didn't fully trust, someone who had a loose tongue. It didn't take long for the word to spread. My betrayal became known to others before it reached him, and when the whispers got too close, I panicked. I lied. I lied to protect myself, to shield myself from the inevitable fallout. I convinced myself that I was sparing him from pain, but now I see that the lies were for my benefit, not his. They were a shield for my own fragile sanity. On January 30th, everything came crashing down. He found out, beyond any doubt, what I had done. The look on his face, the raw pain, the betrayal. It's burned into my memory. It was the worst day of my life because it was the day I truly lost him. In that moment, there was no denying that it was entirely my fault. No one else was responsible for the mess I had created. The guilt was suffocating, but at first, I wasn't even sorry for the right reasons. I was more upset about being caught, about the consequences now unfolding, than about the hurt I'd caused. In the beginning, my apologies were shallow, more about easing my own guilt than making amends with him. But as time passed, and I began to truly understand the depth of his pain, my remorse deepened. I started to feel the weight of not just what I had done to him, but also how I had betrayed our mutual friend by dragging them into the middle of this disaster. I had created a web of lies, and now two people I cared about were caught in it. Now, I sit here with the reality that I may have lost him forever. The space where he used to be in my life feels like a gaping void. He was a person who made me feel loved, cherished, something I didn't realize I depended on until it was gone. Other than the occasional embrace from my mother, he was the only source of affection in my life. And now that's been ripped away. I find myself desperate to get him back, to make things right, but I know it's not that simple. He needs space, and I understand that. But understanding doesn't make it any easier to wait. Patience has never been my strong suit, and the silence is unbearable. What makes it worse is knowing that his friends are urging him to cut ties with me for good. They're telling him that I'm toxic, that I'll hurt him again if he lets me back into his life. And maybe they're right to be cautious, but I've changed. I've learned from my mistakes. I don't want to be the person who caused him so much pain. I want to prove to him and to them that I can be different, that I can be better. But how can I do that if I never get the chance? I know the internet isn't a place where cheaters are forgiven easily, and I understand why. Cheating is one of the worst betrayals, and I hate myself for what I did. But I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm looking for a way to move forward, a way to repair what I've broken, even if that means accepting that he might never want me back. The pain of losing him is unbearable, but I brought this on myself, and now I have to live with it. My relationship with my boyfriend has always felt like more than just a commitment on paper. We've been together since I was 16, and though we're not legally married, in every other sense, emotionally, financially, and physically, we've built a life together. But over the past year or two, something fundamental has shifted, and I don't know how to fix it. He's lost all interest in having sex with me. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was the stress. We've both been struggling financially, balancing work and school. He started taking ADHD medication a couple of years ago, and one of the side effects is a reduced sex drive. But no matter how much I try to explain it away, it doesn't change the fact that it hurts. It hurts to feel like I'm no longer desirable to him, like I'm invisible in that way. What makes it worse is that I know he's still taking care of his sexual needs, just not with me. I've caught him masturbating in the shower, and there's porn on our computer. I can't help but feel like I've been replaced, like I'm no longer enough for him. We used to be so close, so passionate. In our teenage years, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. Now, if we have sex once every 4 to 6 weeks, I consider it a miracle. But even then, I've convinced myself that he's only doing it out of obligation, just to get me off his back. I've tried to talk to him about it, to communicate like we always have. I've told him how much I miss our intimacy, and he's promised to try. But nothing changes. I've taken steps to improve myself, losing weight, doing things that make me feel good about myself, but it hasn't made a difference. He doesn't see me any differently. And it's not just a lack of sex. It's the emotional distance that comes with it. I feel disconnected from him in a way that scares me. Then, 6 months ago, something unexpected happened. I started to notice my boss. I never meant for it to happen, and at first, I chalked it up to harmless attraction. After all, I've been with my boyfriend for 12 years, and I've never strayed before. But over time, the attraction grew. We started joking around at work, and there was an undeniable tension between us. Still, I told myself it was just a fantasy, nothing more. Then one night, everything changed. There was a terrible storm, and the roads were too dangerous to drive home. Since I work at a hotel, they offered to put me up for the night, along with my boss, who also had to stay. He invited me to his room for a drink, and what started as casual conversation quickly escalated. We got drunk, and before I knew it, we were kissing. One thing led to another, and we ended up having the best sex I've had in years. It was exhilarating, fun, and completely wrong. The next morning, I was flooded with guilt. I had betrayed the person I've spent over a decade with. I've never considered myself a cheater, but that night, I became one. Now, I don't know what to do. Part of me feels alive again in a way I haven't felt in years, but another part of me is drowning in regret. I don't know how to face my boyfriend, how to reconcile the fact that I still love him, but found myself in someone else's bed. I'm in a long-term relationship with my boyfriend, and things between us have been difficult for a while now. What started as a small rough patch has gradually turned into something much bigger, something I didn't fully realize until recently. There's this growing emotional and physical distance between us that feels like a widening gap. It's strange because I know I still love him. There's no question about that. But the connection we once had feels weakened. It's as if we're both walking around carrying the weight of unresolved issues, and those issues are slowly suffocating what we once had. One of the biggest problems is his refusal to work. He's been avoiding any responsibility when it comes to contributing financially, and it's wearing me down. It's not just about the money, though. It's about what that refusal represents. The lack of effort, the lack of care for our shared future. And then there's the other, more personal issue, one that hurts even more. The fact that he's refused intimacy for some time now. It's as if he's completely checked out of that part of our relationship, and I'm left feeling rejected, unwanted, and alone. I've tried to talk to him about it, to explain how much it's affecting me, but he doesn't seem to want to engage. And that's left me in a vulnerable place, more vulnerable than I ever expected to be. I never thought I'd be tempted by someone else. I never thought I'd even look at another man while in this relationship. But then there's my boss. He's this force of nature. Charming, confident, and dangerous in a way that's hard to describe. From the moment I met him, there's been this undeniable chemistry between us, this tension that I can't seem to escape. He's like kryptonite to me, irresistible in a way that feels both thrilling and terrifying. It's not just that he's attractive. It's the way he carries himself, the way he talks to me, the way he looks at me. He has this power over me that I'm not sure how to break free from. I've already told him we need to keep our distance. I've said the words, but deep down, I know I don't want to. There's something about him that draws me in, something that makes me feel alive in a way I haven't felt in so long. I can't even remember the last time I lusted after someone like this. It's not an emotional connection. At least, I don't think it is, but the physical pull is overwhelming. It's consuming me. Every day at work, I find myself drawn to him, my thoughts clouded by desire. Yesterday, I had to actively restrain myself from doing something I know I'd regret. It felt like I was trapped in a scene from a song, with temptation hanging thick in the air, just waiting for me to give in. The worst part is, my boss knows I'm in a relationship. He's fully aware that I have a boyfriend, and yet it doesn't seem to matter to him. It's as if he sees my relationship as a non-issue, something that doesn't stand in the way of what he wants. And part of me is flattered by that. Flattered by the fact that someone as attractive and charismatic as him wants me, despite the complications. It's dangerous, I know, but it's also intoxicating. He's confident, assertive, and unapologetically drawn to me. And the fact that he's willing to pursue me, even knowing I'm with someone, makes me feel desired in a way I haven't felt in a long time. I'm not trying to justify what's happening. I know this situation is wrong. I know I've allowed things to escalate when I should have put a stop to it. But I'm human and I'm confused. I wasn't planning for any of this. I never thought I'd be in a position where I'd feel torn between two people, let alone someone I work with. But here I am, facing a temptation that's so strong it feels like I'm fighting a losing battle. I don't want to string my boyfriend along, I don't. But I also can't deny that part of me wants to see where things could go with my boss. It's a confusing, messy situation, and I feel like I'm being pulled in two different directions. Workplace relationships aren't exactly taboo where I am. People have gotten involved with each other before, and no one really cares. It's almost become a joke, with even the general manager playing matchmaker and encouraging people to get together. So, it's not like there's this huge stigma around what's happening, but that doesn't make things any easier for me. The truth is, this job isn't part of my long-term plan. I'm only here for the paycheck to help pay the bills. If I need to quit to get out of the situation, I will. But even that feels like running away from the problem rather than dealing with it head-on. And quitting doesn't necessarily solve the complicated feelings I have toward my boss. Last night, my boss and I really talked, about what's been going on between us. We acknowledged the ethical boundaries we've crossed, but his response surprised me. He quoted Oscar Wilde saying, "The only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it." He said it so casually, as if giving in was the obvious solution, as if resisting was pointless. Then, without missing a beat, he asked me if I had plans for Friday. He's not planning on backing off, and it's clear he's not interested in maintaining a professional distance. Part of me is exhilarated by his attention, by the way he makes me feel, but another part of me knows this is playing with fire. I tried to address things with my boyfriend this morning, to have an honest conversation about our intimacy issues. I thought maybe if we talked about it, we could start to fix things, but he completely ignored me. When I asked him why he wasn't responding, he brushed me off, saying he had to get ready for school, even though he had 2 hours before his first class. It was like he didn't even want to acknowledge the problem, and that hurt more than I expected. I'm trying to salvage what we have, but how can I do that when he won't even engage with me on such a fundamental issue? Now, I'm in this incredibly confusing place. On one side, I have my boyfriend, a relationship I've invested years into, but one that feels like it's slipping away. On the other side, there's my boss, a man who tempts me in ways I've never experienced before, someone who makes me feel desired and alive, but who represents a risk I'm not sure I'm ready to take. I know I need to make a decision, but I'm not sure what the right one is. Part of me wants to find a way out of both situations, to clear my head and figure out what I truly want. But I don't know if I'll be able to. I know people might judge me for what's happening, and I can't say I blame them. I've made choices that have led me here, and now I have to live with those choices. My boyfriend and I have both made mistakes in the past. He's not perfect, and neither am I, but that doesn't make this any easier. Despite everything, I do still love him, but I can't deny that something is deeply broken between us. I've let things get to this point, and now I have to figure out how to move forward. Whether I can escape the situation or not remains to be seen. But I know I can't stay like this forever.